June 9th, 2025. So if we would, we'll stand for the invocation and the pledge, please.
Lord, we thank you so much for the privilege to meet together and topics of the city, and bless us in all we do today. And Lord, thank you for this.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Brings us to our first public comment period. Anybody wishing to speak before us may, and they have 3 minutes. Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion.
We have a motion? We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All righty. We need, can we have a motion to approve the minutes of April 14th, 2025? We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. That brings us right down to new business. So, Philip, I guess that's you, right?
That's me. Thank you all very much. If I can pull it up here. All right, so the new fiscal year budget, a couple of things were changed, and I apologize that staff report got a little cut off during the export to a PDF. I'm not sure why. But this is a consideration to improve the fiscal year 2025-2026 budget. The highlighted changes for this budget include revenue changes because of the food truck park and grant revenue changes from the FCDA. Expenditure changes revolve around the lower scope of the food truck park as compared to, a total renovation of the fire station. And these things combined results in a lower overall budget than last year. So let me go ahead and pull that up for y'all. This budget overview shows our percentage change, last year's budget, this year's budget, and the number difference. And so one of the big differences is the local government unit grant. So that's the Fayette County Development Authority. That grant, last year we were anticipating $250,000 from that grant, just given the scope of where we were with the building. This year it'll be 194, so that's 56,000 less, just because the scope of the project is different. I will note that they did approve our request for an increased amount, so that did go forward, and the FCDA board did approve that. So this number reflects that increased amount. The town's total contribution stays the same at $30,000, so our total is 20% less this year on revenues. We did not change anything with vendor application fees or concession revenue for the events, and we did not change anything with interest revenues from the bank. The next major change is from rent and royalties. So this is anticipating rents and royalties from the rental of food truck spaces. So we're trying to anticipate that for the period of time that we anticipate it to be open. And that is, again, a little bit of a difficult number to get at, but we anticipated around $9,000 for the remainder of the 25-26 fiscal year when this is supposed to be done with construction. It's a conservative number, so it's not trying to overestimate what we would get there. Funds carried forward, that's just money that was unspent from last year going forward into next fiscal year, is $55,000 less than last year. And our total revenue is 22.86% less at $348,350. Really, in terms of any questions on revenues before I move on to expenses? Really, just from a revenues or expenses perspective, we have a lot of items here that are remaining unchanged. The major items that are being reduced here are carrying costs for the building itself. So insurance related to the building and boiler and machinery insurance is what's gone down there. Oh, yeah, excuse me. The $1,700 and $1,000 decreases here, just carrying costs for the building in terms of insurance. We still do have insurance for the property, general liability insurance and things like that. So for total supplies cost, that number did increase. We do anticipate that electricity, it says building electricity, but this is really site electricity. This is gonna go up because we're planning on having these food trucks connect to shore power. So that's an area where we increased expenses on electricity. That's gonna be offset, again, by revenues, but that's what we anticipate there, as well as some increased water usage. So that's really the only change there for supplies. And then total capital outlay, the site improvements, the building was, the previous project was under building improvements. This new one's gonna be under site improvements since it's not a building. So those areas have flipped and the amount has decreased by $91,000. And then contingencies has been reduced because we have put, so we used to have $24,000 in our contingency budget. We decided to, oh, excuse me, I keep scrolling on my iPad and not down here. Yep. So the contingencies budget, we decided to take, just to try and get a little bit more out of the Fayette County Development Authority since we had this money there. We took $15,000 from our contingency budget to put towards the site. That was then matched by the Fayette County Development Authority for another $15,000. So that's to help with the site improvements. But we still have a $9,000 contingency budget just for anything that might happen over the course of the year. So that is that's our total expenses for the year, $348,350.
So where, and I know this isn't exactly, but it's got to come up, where are we with the development of the food truck?
Yes, so with the Development Authority approving, I was out last week, so we've kind of had a slight lull in the past week, although Willowdale is preparing a final number for us as a result of the FCDA's new update and what we can do to kind of get the scope of that project where we need it. So they're in development of that. I should probably have that this week. They had to do, in order to get some preliminary numbers, they had to do a topographic survey of the property. Even though it's pretty flat, they still need, their engineering company still needed that. So we authorized them to go forward with that. I think they finished that up the beginning of last week, so that topographic survey is done, and they've been in development of kind of just a very base foundation site plan so that they can get us a hard and fast number that we can put into a contract. So we should have that this week, and I would have a contract drafted up around that next week. And we, in order to keep the project moving forward, we might ask for a special called meeting to approve that contract if we need to. But that's where we're at.
Is there any cost for the survey?
There'll be some cost for the survey. I think it's not that much. It's maybe $1,500.
So again, what is the amount of money that we actually have now?
From the FCDA?
Well, in total, so.
309.
Okay,
Yeah.
309, and their projected costs for what they originally had said, being the low bidder, was?
It was 248, I believe.
Right.
So that was to do just the base services. To do all of our bid alternates was well over 309. So what we're drafting up currently is the ability to do the base items that we wanted to do and integrate some of our bid alternates to an amount that gets to 309. That's going to take into account some contingencies. We've been on site trying to talk to them about scoping of things, the potential of maybe moving the the dumpster enclosure closer to the street, which from a downtown development perspective, we don't like, but if it could be made to look nice, we'd kind of take a look at that. That could help reduce costs pretty drastically, because at that point, the drive to get back there requires lower maintenance, and it doesn't require such a high build standard to have a garbage truck go over it weekly. We talked about scoping the green space area, maybe shrinking that down a little bit. The 10,000 square feet is quite a large area to put as a turfed green space, because the turf on its own, just that space, 10,000 square feet of artificial turf was like anywhere between $80,000 and $90,000. So trying to scale that to something that might be a little bit more appropriate. 10,000 square feet was just a lot of space for that too. We probably would not need all of that space. So we're trying to talk about, getting the scope kind of reined in a little bit, adding, and so that we can pursue some of those bid alternates to make it a higher quality kind of project. So that's where we're at. So we definitely have enough to do the base project, but getting some of those bid alternates is kind of where we're trying to massage things right now.
We were, after our last meeting, I believe. But I think the premise or the idea behind all of that was the project was just way overpriced. Looking at, I know you said engineering some things cost, but trying to get some bid alternates. Same direction we were going.
Yeah, the goal is to have this project be below 309, but that would be the maximum budget based on what's available to us from the FCDA. So we put that price in there. But yes, we would like to try and get the number below that so that we can.
I'm just trying to understand why we want to spend that much. Below 200,000 was our last budget, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we can.
I'm not trying to make the scope bigger, or at that cost, I still believe it was overpriced. So. Headed.
What was that increase?
They put an additional, let me see if I can.
It's just a 1 acre, less than an acre food truck park. $300,000 being kicked around is hard to stomach,
This is based on my conversations with Scott and their engineer as well. There are some things in this project that they're hidden costs that are pretty high. And one of the number one things that's going to be a cost situation for us is we're going to be a commercial operation. We're not necessarily, residential, or we have to build it to a commercial standard, and it's going to have to be built to an ADA standard as a result of that. That ADA standard is kind of what's hitting us in terms of making sure that the construction level that gets to the food truck parks, to the central area, and to the bathrooms, ensuring that that's ADA accessible is something that's going to have a pretty significant cost. One of the other items where we're trying to reduce cost is for the build level of the actual base material as well. So that's why we were talking about moving the dumpster up to the front, because to build that base material and that base level to a standard that allows a garbage truck to go over it weekly, that is exceedingly expensive. So that's an area where we're trying to reduce costs, but that's also a hidden cost of saying, okay, well, we got to put GAB down, we got to put, it's not just a gravel lot. that accommodates the food trucks and people walking. It's talking about, okay, having a piece of heavy equipment go over it every week. That's another hidden cost that we kind of encountered that requires a lot of under-the-hood expense, from an engineering and a land development perspective. That still goes for the food trucks themselves, which are large and heavy vehicles. So to make sure that we're building something that's not going to get torn up or have long-term maintenance, I think that's where some of that upfront extra cost is coming into play. And that is part of it, is maintenance. So ensuring that we're building it to a standard that we don't have to pursue a lot of long-term maintenance, especially on the base material itself. So that's kind of where we found some of those extra costs were hidden and kind of maybe more expensive than we anticipated.
Thoughts or questions?
Just one, and this is just, I'm curious. If we sold the property to a LLC or something like that, and they just decided to allow food trucks to be on their property, do you still have to build it to the same?
If it's still a commercial property, then yes.
I
they would
wouldn't
still-
consider it commercial property. I would just consider it private property.
If it's for,
Still gotta be ADA compliant.
Okay.
yeah, that's something that we, yeah, everybody's going to kind of be hit with this standard of needing to have an ADA. And part of it is also from an insurance perspective too. Us thinking about how we insure this property going forward, we need to have that as part of the design. Because if it's going to be used by the public, the general public, for a non-residential purpose, then that's just where it needs to be.
And if you're going to do it, you have to do it to a certain quality, otherwise it's not worth doing at all.
Well, and some of our bid alternates, we said were bid alternates, but the turf lawn, the more that we had discussion about it, that's more of we need to have that. Just from a quality perspective and attractiveness perspective, kind of keeping things. So those are all part of
Got a
where.
minimum of 50 grand there, minimum, yeah.
Talking about for the AstroTurf,
Turf,
Yeah.
you said it was like 80 to 90,000?
That was
That's
for
for
10,000,
10,000
that's for
square feet, but you
10,000
gotta have
square
at least
feet.
5,000,
And
I-
there's multiple qualities of turf.
It's gotta be quality,
So-
yeah, 'cause people.
Well, and yes, they bid out a grade of artificial turf that's like for basically like a football field, because that's going to be the level of traffic that we anticipate. We're also going to anticipate, I don't think we're going to restrict people to bring their pets to this facility, so it needs to be, pet, grade turf as well. So these were kind of things that they were talking about, some areas that we're looking to reduce cost, and we still hope to be able to keep the cost low. Our goal is not to have a $309,000 project. Our goal is to try and have it lower than that. But we do think that we're going to have to spend more than, I think, anticipated in that range. And yeah, I think if it was something else, then I think we would probably be able to get away with some of this. But just thinking about our long-term protection, just insurance, liability, and what commercial level we're going to be held to, that's just kind of where it's going to be.
Are we voting on anything with that today?
You're voting on the budget. With the contract so the budget's going to say, here's the maximum amount that, y'all would be willing to spend on this. The contract is yet to come to you. So we still have time to have these discussions before we approve a final contract for this project.
Yeah, I had brought it up, Nathan, because of the budget here, plus with the next item that we're going to discuss as well. And we needed an update on it anyway, and I just thought it was a good timing, and thank you, Philip, for that. So, but again, if we don't do it at a certain level of quality, it's going to go downhill fast, and it's not going to look good after a while, and that's going to defeat what we're trying to do here. So, any other thoughts or questions? Do we have a motion to approve the Tyrone DDA 2025-2026 fiscal year budget?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Nay. So we're good. Thank you. All righty. We go to the next item, Philip.
Just to be clear, Mr. Reese, is that in favor or opposed?
Those opposed?
Yes, sir, thank you. The next item is, so we've already had this event, but it's to approve a contract with Simply Awesome Entertainment. This is the same contract that we had with them prior. Legal has approved it, so we're just looking to get your approval for this contract. And the item was in budget, so, yes, sir.
And if we don't, what are we going to do?
Is a pretty routine item. Yeah, I apologize that it did not get before you at the last meeting.
Okay. So. Yeah. I don't think there's going to be much discussion on this, so I'll ask ahead of time here. Anybody want to make a motion to approve the service contract with Simply Awesome Entertainment, LLC for $1,200 for the June First Friday event? We have a motion. We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? It passes.
Okay, very good, thank you. Those are the only items on the agenda. The only thing that I was going to leave room for was additional discussion regarding the food truck part, which we had some here at the budget item, but if there's any other questions, thoughts as we move forward, our goal is to reduce the cost of the project as much as is feasible while still accomplishing the goals that we're trying to accomplish. Yeah, so once we narrow down the scope of the project and we get that kind of solidified with them, then we prepare a design-build contract with them, which we already have a template for. So we'll have the design-build contract assembled, we'll give it to them, and then that'll come to you for approval, and that will have an amount associated with it for a total cost of the project, not to exceed.
So you're still anticipating a September, October completion?
I think we're looking probably a little closer to December.
Okay.
But we're gonna try and see that final schedule is gonna be part of that design-build contract as well. But it has to be within the bounds of what we had put in our RFP. So it's still bound by that total time frame, which I believe was, from execution of contract, I believe it was 3 to 5 months, something like that, which we think is reasonable for a project like this. So that total scope of the project will come to you along with the final total cost of the project.
Brings us to our second public comment period. Anybody wishing to speak before us may. Seeing none. Staff comments. Ladies? Okay. Personally, because of the finances, I mean, I'm not in favor of any of them, but that would be up to the rest of the people here.
Probably at this point.
Yeah, we can assess for the next meeting. We have the budget to just do a regular First Friday event for September. But if that's how we and where we need to shift to it, but we'll get a better and clearer understanding of that when we get a contract back from Willowdale.
Brandon, nothing? Okay. Any board members, council comments? None? All righty. Ally's not here?
Nope.
I thought I saw her earlier. She was. Oh, okay, all right. I know I'm not the sharpest pencil in the box, but I thought I saw her in her car. All righty. If that's the case, then do we have a motion to adjourn? We have a motion. All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned.